Thank you for meeting with me. Can you say your name and talk about what you do for work?
My name is Robeson. I'm a sheet metal apprentice. I currently am a member of Local 16. I'm in my 4th year of the apprenticeship program, and I'm currently working out in Hillsboro on the data center. We're installing the HVAC, or their heating and air conditioning for the building.
So what drew you to your apprenticeship?
So I did a lot of welding in high school, and when I first heard the apprenticeship, I heard there was welding in sheet metal, so I was instantly hooked on that aspect. Once I joined, I quickly learned that there's a lot more to it than just welding, but that's what got me into it. I still weld in the industry, and I definitely take full advantage of the welding that you can do in the apprenticeship. So I've grown my knowledge a lot in the apprenticeship. I've also gotten the opportunity to work towards getting a couple certifications as well.
What do you enjoy about the work that you do?
Yeah, so welding's kind of cool because it has a fundamental element in construction. Recently I worked at Intel on their Mod 3 project, and work was normal. I was just installing ductwork, and one day they're like, hey, we could use a structural welder out on the steel, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. And the next thing I knew, for the next 5 months, I was climbing around the steel with iron workers and rigging up pretty heavy stuff. And as a structural welder, your welds are literally holding that building together for the next 100 years. So that's kind of cool. It's cool to do welds that get inspected by the inspector, and that pass, and you guys can keep on working. So I enjoy that aspect. Welding's also cool because you could also just be doing a lot of fab. So I've worked in a fab shop, fabbing up ladders or walkways. I'm trying to think of the name for the stands for different pieces of equipment in a building, brackets, just all sorts of things that you get the blueprint for the project, and then you work kind of on your own or with a partner, and you get to fab up that part that for that piece of equipment, what have you. And that's really gratifying, especially when you see the finished product and it's holding that machine to the ground, or it's holding that machine in the air, or it's a ladder that people are going to climb up and down for the next, like I said, 50 to 100 years. So that's a pretty fun part of it. You get to see your work. And you're literally putting stuff together. So I enjoy that a lot.
What do you love about your job?
Yeah, so one thing that I find really fun is sometimes when you go into a plant, and they're like, yeah, so we need this new ship ladder and this platform built that our workers can access this piece of equipment, and you work with them to design what that will be, and then every step of the way you're controlling that process, and you're building that, and your craftsmanship shows in that finished product. It's a lot of fun at every step to do a good job, to take your time, to do it right, and make a product that looks good, works well, is efficient for the company. It's great to kind of use your talents and your abilities to do something that's productive, and that will get used. And worked for potentially a very long time. That's really rewarding.
What do you enjoy about being on a job site?
One thing that I enjoy, and I think is a huge differentiation between an office job and, say, construction, is that, all throughout the day, you're seeing achievements. You see the building come together. You're working alongside people that you get to know very well. You're working long hours with them. You kind of build it's kind of a family. It's not easy, it's hard. And that's kind of what makes it even better sometimes, is It's hard and it's rewarding, and you see things come together in real time. It's not abstract, it's real. And so it's fun to show up, look at the blueprints, say, okay, our goal today is to get these 4 lines in, or, we're gonna get all these returns in, and then setting out and laying that out in the building, preparing your materials, working with other trades, scheduling, saying, hey, we're gonna work in this area, but then we'll work right behind you. You kind of get that logistic aspect. You get to look at prints and do your layout and your measurement, and then you get to get hands-on. You're using your tools and you're putting duct together. You're putting it in the air. It's fun to use your hands and to build, instead of looking at a computer all day, or going over notebooks or meetings talking about things. No, you're actually building things. You're actually installing things. At the end, you see the job, it's done, and you go into the next one. It's always new. It's always changing. Keeps you on your toes. That's really rewarding.
What got you into the trades when you were in high school?
Yeah, so my sophomore year, I had some projects at home that I wanted to build, and I saw a flyer come through, and it was, talking about a manufacturing engineering class, and I thought, oh, maybe that'll, I can learn some stuff for this project that I have at home. And so I signed up for it, and I saw some cool picture of equipment and stuff in the background. Oh, that looks cool. So I signed up for it, and my first day was like, we're gonna learn how to weld with SMAW, and I get to learn this process. And I was like, I didn't even know what that was. And as soon as I started doing it, I was like, this is really awesome. You're taking 2 pieces of metal and melting it together before your eyes. That was really cool. And then the more I got to build stuff, for me, that was really awesome. Like to look at a blueprint and to cut material out to certain lengths and dimensions, and like putting it together the way it's supposed to go, and welding that together, and it might fit into, a piece of equipment or a car or whatever it could be. That was awesome. In high school, a lot of guys built themselves custom truck bumpers and trailers, and just all sorts of custom projects for themselves or their family or whatnot. And that's when I was hooked. I just realized I loved building things. I loved designing things. As a kid, I always thought that I'd be a designer, which I guess would be an engineer or an inventor. And then when I got into the trades, or that's what got me into the trades, is realizing that I could build stuff every day.
What sort of things were you interested in when you were younger?
I spent a lot of time as a kid drawing things that I wanted to build, flying cars and hovercrafts and stuff. And I always had to go to college to be an engineer, which is an awesome route. But I also love to work with my hands, and I can't sit for long periods of time. I need to work on something. And so in high school, when I got to work on projects in real life, going out to weld in the field, fixing, a soccer goal post or a fence, bringing my tools out there, out into the weather or in a shop, that was always really fun for me to fix things, to build things. That was always really rewarding for me. And so when I graduated high school, it just seemed like the right thing to do for me to apply to the apprenticeship. And I got in, and it's been 3 years now, and I've learned so much, and you're always learning more too. It's always cool because that's the thing. It's not stagnant. You're always learning new things. There's not a day that goes by that I just go through the motions. It's always something different, something a little bit new. It's something that's new. Even working with other trades, you see other trades do things, and you're like, hey, how do you guys do that? That is so awesome. Or what is that? What does that do? And so you're always seeing these buildings come together for different things, or they could be a hospital, or Intel making computer chips, or Nabisco or Frito-Lay baking cookies, or frying chips. And working on their equipment, working on their systems is always really cool. You get to witness that stuff firsthand, and I love that.
What sort of people might be suited to the trades?
I would say if you like working with your hands, if you ever find yourself, working with a parent or a family member or friends on their car or their yard or just DIY projects around the house. If you're someone that enjoys literally building or making things with your hands, the trades might be right for you. It's a great route to make a career. It's a great route to make a living, and it can be really rewarding. I'm pretty passionate for what I do or about what I do, and I think a lot of people can find that. Something that's cool about the trades is the trades vary a lot. So even within sheet metal, you could really focus on welding. You could really focus on blueprints and being a draftsman. You could focus on shop work. You could run burn tables. You could just be an install guy. You could be an architectural sheet metal guy, work on the side of building, doing exterior finishes. There's a lot of different avenues you can take. And so what's great about that is, yes, you might think, oh, I like to work with my hands, but I don't want to sit outside all day. We don't have to. You could work with other tradesmen to build them shop drawings and blueprints that they then take into the field and use to install their work. There's a lot of different avenues to kind of focus on and go down and learn more about. So I would say if you like to work with your hands, if you find that you don't like sitting still all day in meetings and emails and in an office, the trades might be a good thing for you to look into. It might be a good path to explore. It can be really rewarding and provide a really great career.
What advice do you have for students who are trying to find their way?
I would say to a young person in high school, don't be afraid of work. I think there's kind of been a stigma built around labor. Oh, well, you don't want to be a garbage man, do you? It's like, well, there's a lot of jobs that people need to do, and none of them are bad. They're all very respectable. Buildings need to be built. Hospitals need to be built. Cancer research centers need to be built. Data centers need to be built. There should be no stigma around people who work blue collar, per se jobs. They're just as rewarding as anyone else. You're inputting into society just like everybody. Don't let a perception of a job steer you away if it interests you. These jobs can be fun, jobs can be hard, and jobs can be rewarding. And don't be afraid to explore different career fields just because you don't think it might be, it's not cool, or, oh, that might be too hard. Don't let that get you down. Look at what interests you, what seems rewarding to you, what you would maybe enjoy doing every day, and then go from there. Don't get bogged down by, what's the best option or, the smart option. Those are loose terms that people use, but ultimately it's what's best for you. That's the smart option. What's best for you is the right option. That's the rewarding option for you, is what you're going to enjoy, because you're the one doing the career, not your high school teacher, not your parent. They're not the ones doing your job every day. You are. So you have to find, explore, and learn a career for yourself, because you're going to be the one working for the rest of your life, or until you retire.
What skills do you need to work in the trades?
Yeah, so some basic skills or tendencies that would lend to being good. Coordination, a little bit of math. You got to be able to read a tape measure. It's a pretty basic skill that you use all day long and you don't even realize it. Math, a little bit of math. Depending on the trade, you might use math more or less. Math's kind of a funny one because a lot of us don't like math in school, but since I got in the trades and sheet metal, we use a lot of trigonometry, which that sounds scary, but when you actually learn it in real application, it's actually kind of fun. It's not too hard. A lot of times you learn algebra. I hated algebra in school. I still hate algebra. Never even touched trigonometry in school, but now I use trigonometry all the time, and you don't even think about it. it's not really a barrier to entry.
How difficult is the physical side of your job?
I would say construction it's a long time been known as kind of a rough trade. It's the same way you would think of, say, mining or any other kind of work, kind of like that. It's kind of rough work sometimes. On a job site, going from different job site to different job sites, you can expect to work long hours. You can expect to work in the weather throughout the winter. I've definitely hung off the side of buildings in a basket in full rain gear, installing metal panels on a building. It's fun, and also it can suck, and that's kind of the reality. It's kind of a challenge. If you're someone that doesn't mind getting pushed outside your comfort zone, getting dirty, being cold sometimes, that's something to be okay with. But also, I've always kind of been like that. I like to get my hands dirty. It's okay for things to get hard. It builds character, as they say, and it does. It does. Sometimes I would say it almost makes life easier, because when you do hard things, you look back and you're like, okay, well, this isn't too bad, because at least it's not, snowing outside. At least it's not, I'm standing in the rain soaked to the bone. It's a reality of working in the trades, and it also is kind of who we are. It does build that character. It builds that personality, and it's something to be proud of. There's a reason that people are proud to work at blue-collar jobs, is because it's rewarding in that aspect. You're doing the jobs that some people just aren't willing to do. It's too hard for them. It's too scary for them. If you're the kind of person that's like, no, that's all right, I can do that. I can be for you. That's the kind of person that I am, and maybe you are too.
What are some things that you wish people knew about the trades?
I think the biggest misconception or just not knowing what you don't know that I've found is that people, I think, tend to assume that this doesn't take skill, or that it doesn't take knowledge, that you just kind of show up and beat stuff together and that's it. And so it's very far from the truth. This is a craft. People who work in the trades are craftsmen, and that means that they know a trade that's been passed on for hundreds of years in some cases. You might think of like the Freemasons or Masons who passed on the knowledge of stonework for generations after generations. It's the same thing. And I think the one thing that I would tell people is that because of the knowledge that you possess, because of that craftsmanship that you learn, it's a very valuable skill. It's not just something that you go sign up for because you don't want to go to college or you couldn't make it in college. It's very far from the truth. People here are very smart, they're very knowledgeable, they're very experienced, and they can do things that you can never dream of doing, the same way that you probably do things that they may not ever think of doing. Everyone is different, but I guess the biggest misconception I think I see is just people not realizing the skill that people have in the trades, that knowledge, and without them, no one else could just walk in and do the job. It takes years to master. But I was joking with a journeyman the other day. We say we have 5 years to become a journeyman, but you're not really a journeyman for 10 years. It was kind of a joke, but there's just so much to learn that sometimes it's by the end of your career, do you know enough? There's a lot to know, and it's a profession. It's not just dumb work digging a hole. No, it's a profession. It's a craft. It's a trade. Even if you don't work the trades, it's good to know that, to respect other people who do something different from you. That's what I would say.